He was loud, he was wild, he was the face of a billion-dollar empire before social media, before influencer deals, before branding was even a buzzword. But behind the bandana and 24-inch pythons was one of the earliest, rawest examples of what it meant to turn attention into equity. Before Hulk Hogan was a household name, his real name was Terry Gene Bollea, a kid from Augusta, Georgia who played bass guitar in dive bars and worshipped pro wrestlers like Dusty Rhodes and superstar Billy Graham. He was tall, muscular, and charismatic. But charisma doesn't pay the rent. Not yet. In 1977, he got discovered by a wrestling promoter in Florida. That's where it started, but not where it blew up. That moment came in 1984, when Vince McMahon Sr. stepped down and his son, Vince Jr., bet the entire WWE empire on one man, Hogan. This was the birth of Hulkamania. He wasn't just a wrestler, he was a walking brand. He had action figures before The Rock ever touched a mic. He had his own cartoon show. He was featured on Sports Illustrated, the first wrestler to do it. He headlined WrestleMania again and again and again, and the numbers, they were insane for the 80s. He was pulling down $1 million per event at his peak. Merch sales were through the roof. Hogan t-shirts, bandanas, posters, lunchboxes, all of it moved millions. According to old WWF insiders, 70% of the company's total merch sales were Hogan branded. That's not talent, that's market control. But here's where the financial lesson starts. Hogan didn't own the WWE. He didn't own the merch rights. He didn't own the pay-per-view platform. What he owned was attention. And attention is leverage. Vince McMahon had the company, Hogan had the audience. So when WCW came knocking in the mid-90s, offering him $13 million guaranteed, plus a % of PPV sales, plus creative control of his character, he walked. That wasn't just a move, that was financial freedom. So what's the lesson? Brand job title, equity salary. And if people chant your name loud enough, you don't need a resume. By the late 90s, Hogan had it all. Millions in guaranteed WCW money, merchandise royalties, Hollywood deals, even his own TV show on VH1. But in finance, one truth always applies. The higher the climb, the steeper the fall. And Hogan, he fell hard. In 2007, his wife Linda filed for divorce after 24 years of marriage. What followed was one of the most brutal financial wipeouts in celebrity history. Hogan claimed in interviews that the divorce settlement took 70% of his net worth. That included multiple cars, real estate, and millions in liquid cash. According to court records, Linda received $3 million in property, 40% ownership of Hogan's companies, a monthly alimony check, plus a cut of any new income streams. Let that sink in. The face of wrestling was now facing near financial collapse, and then it got worse. In 2012, Gawker Media leaked a private video of Hogan. It went viral, but not in the way celebrities dream of. Hogan sued, not just for defamation, but for destruction of his brand, image, and livelihood. He won. Big. The jury awarded him $140 million, but behind the scenes, something more powerful happened. Peter Thiel, a billionaire who had beef with Gawker, secretly funded Hogan's legal team. It wasn't just about privacy, it was about revenge and power. Eventually, Hogan settled for an estimated $31 million after taxes and fees. Not bad for someone nearly bankrupt 5 years earlier. The lesson? 1. One bad divorce can end a dynasty. 2. But one strong brand can rebuild it. 3. And knowing the right people. That can flip your losses into a check with more zeros than your prime years. Hulk Hogan wasn't just a wrestler, he was a walking, yelling business empire. Long before YouTubers slapped logos on merch, Hogan had his face on. Lunchboxes, vitamins, wrestling buddies, ice cream bars, t-shirts in every color of the rainbow. At one point, he was generating more than $10 million a year just from WWE merchandise alone. But here's what most people don't know. He didn't own his name until he fought for it. In the early days, Hulk Hogan was owned by Marvel Comics. Why? Because Marvel had trademarked the Incredible Hulk. So Hogan, real name Terry Bollea, had to license his own name from Marvel for decades. It wasn't until 2005 that he secured full ownership of Hulk Hogan for a reported $750,000 lump sum. That move unlocked real power. He launched his own energy drink line, endorsed everything from grills to lottery tickets, opened a beach restaurant in Clearwater, Florida, licensed his name to video games, action figures, and even slot machines. Fun fact: one of his biggest passive income streams in his later years was a Hulk Hogan slot machine in casinos across the US. This is where attention meets equity, and this is why controlling your IP, intellectual property, is everything. By the time of his death in 2025, Hogan's empire included real estate, brand licensing, restaurant profits, residuals from TV shows, Hogan Knows Best, podcast and public appearance income, lawsuit settlement residuals, and the final reported net worth, approximately $25 million. The lesson here: don't just be the brand, own the brand, control the name, and license yourself, because fame fades, but IP pays forever. On July 24, 2025, Hulk Hogan died in Clearwater, Florida, cardiac arrest, age 71. And the world stood still, not just for a wrestler, but for a cultural icon who turned muscle and marketing into millions. But what happens after the spotlight fades? Let's talk legacy. Let's talk control. At the time of his death, Hogan's estate was valued at approximately $25 million. Not peak Hogan money. But for someone who lost 70% in a divorce, battled lawsuits, and saw his reputation dragged through the mud, that's called recovery. It's unclear exactly how his estate is divided. Hogan was private about his will, but here's what we do know. He had 2 children, Brooke and Nick. He was remarried in 2022 to Sky Daily. He had multiple businesses still active, including Hogan's Hangout restaurant, licensing deals in video games, merch, and memorabilia, podcast and appearance income. And unlike many stars, Hogan had already monetized his image while he was alive. That's the key. Too many celebrities die rich but disorganized. Their families fight, their names get sold off, their legacies get auctioned away piece by piece. But Hogan? He built a name, then fought to own it, then spent 20 years milking it across every platform possible. From Walmart shelves to digital game stores, the Hulk Hogan brand still prints money. And the final lesson? It's not about dying rich, it's about dying with control. Control of your name, control of your assets, control of what happens when you're no longer in the room. Hulk Hogan didn't just leave a memory, he left a blueprint for how to build, lose, and rebuild again. That's not just a wrestler, that's a brand, that's a legacy, that's the lesson.